ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ ප්‍රථම වරට SLT 4G වෙතින් දැන් Pure TV නරඹන්න. ඉදිරියටම ගෙන යන SLT 4G.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට
In your headlines tonight, price of misuse. Curfew temporarily lifted in most areas as police warn strict action against those exploiting curfew permits. Exemplary conduct. Sri Lanka's efforts in battling COVID-19 draws praise from the World Health Organization chief. Facilitating the stranded. Sri Lankan Airlines halts all flights while all visas of tourists extended by another month. Providing a respite, Securities and Exchange Commission decides to grant a moratorium to stock market investors. All this and much more coming up tonight on First at 9, this Wednesday, the 1st of April 2020.
හැටනමයි SMS කර රුපියල් මිලියන 3ක මුල්තැන්ගේ උපකරණ දිනාගෙන අවුරුද්දෙම කුස්සිය ටයිම් සේව් කරගන්න.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
COVID-19 is taking so much from us, but it is also giving us something special. This is the message from the World Health Organization with its Director General Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus saying that it is the opportunity to come together as one humanity, to work together, to learn together and to grow together. The message is very clear. Support of every person, irrespective of ethnicities and nationalities, is needed to fight this invisible enemy. To prevent people falling into the clutches of this enemy, the government had put in place an island-wide curfew. It was lifted temporarily today, except in 6 districts identified as high-risk zones for people to replenish their depleted essential goods. The President's office once again urged people to strictly adhere to safety protocols of the health authorities, warning that non-adherence will be treated as a punishable offence.
The island-wide curfew was lifted at 6 a.m. today in the districts of Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa, Kurunegala, Trincomalee, Batticaloa, Ampara, Galle, Matara, Hambantota, Ratnapura, Kegol, Monaragala, Badulla, Nuwara, Matale, Mena, Mullaitivu, Kilinochchi and Vaunia, providing a window of 8 hours for the people to restock their essential supplies. To large parts, the behaviour of the people during this window of free movement was commendable as they adhered to safety protocols put in place by the government. Although the curfew was lifted very early in the morning, some people in Matale were inconvenienced as several banks in the town were late in opening their doors for business. In some other areas, people were sparse even during the window of free movement. In the meantime, the Western Province, along with the districts of Puttalam, Kandy and Jaffna, are still under lockdown as they are COVID-19 high-risk zones. Police and security forces have set up roadblocks in these areas to stop untoward movements. In Matara, defence personnel advised people in the town of Valigama to wear face masks. Furthermore, the Consumer Affairs Authority conducted raids in the areas of Kamburupitiya, Makandura and Mulatiana in the Matara district to apprehend vendors selling essential goods at inflated prices, ignoring the control prices. Meanwhile, residents in the area of Mahiyanganaya objected to the burial of a woman's remains at a public cemetery in the area last evening. She had died of fever and pneumonia. The incident occurred when a pit was being dug up to bury the body with the use of a backhoe. Doctors had advised that the remains be buried 8 feet deep in line with quarantine regulations, since the report on whether the deceased was COVID-19 positive was not forthcoming. With locals objecting to the burial, the remains were kept at the mortuary of the MAHIYANGANAYA hospital. This evening, however, it was proven that the deceased did not have the coronavirus COVID-19. In the meantime, 288 people were arrested and 71 vehicles were seized for curfew violations in the 6 hours between 6 a.m. and 12 p.m. today. Since the curfew first came into effect, 8,739 people have been arrested, with 2,149 vehicles seized for curfew violations. Given the prevailing virus spread, President's Media Division reiterated that the curfew in the high-risk zones will remain in place until further notice. As for the rest of the country, where the curfew was lifted for 8 hours today before being reimposed, the restriction will last until 6 a.m. on the 6th of April. After another 8-hour window of free movement, the curfew in those areas will be reimposed at 12 p.m. on the same day. Furthermore, inter-district transportation, except for essential services, will be restricted. The government also urges people to strictly adhere to rules and regulations, as their breach will be severely dealt with according to law. In the meantime, the relevant villages which are isolated in the districts of Kandy and Kalutara will remain to be isolated. Entry and exit from these villages in question will be prohibited until further notice. The IG of Traffic Police Ajit Rohana meanwhile warned those exploiting curfew permits issued to ensure transportation of essential goods and provision of services.
ඇඳිරි නීති බලපත් අවභාවිතා කරන බවට තොරතුරු ලැබී තිබෙනවා. අත්‍යවශ්‍ය නොවන කාරණා සඳහා විවිධ ලේඛන ඉදිරිපත් කරමින් ඇඳිරි නීති බලපත්‍ර ලබා ගන්නා බවත් පෙනී ගොස් තිබෙනවා. ඒ නිසා පොලිස් මූලස්ථානය සියලුම පොලිස් ස්ථානාධිපතිවරුන් වෙත දැඩිව දැනුම් දී තිබෙනවා. අත්‍යවශ්‍යම කාරණා සඳහා පමණක් ඇඳිරි නීති බලපත්‍ර නිකුත් කරන ලෙස එවැනි අවශ්‍ය නොවන කාරණයක් සඳහා ඇඳිරි නීති බලපත්‍ර නිකුත් කළොත් එවැනි පොලිස් ස්ථානාධිපතිවරුන්ට විරුද්ධවත් විනය ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ගැනීමට පොලිස් මූලස්ථානය කටයුතු කරනවා. ඖෂධ ඖෂධ බෙදා හැරීම ෆාමසි ඔසුසල් මෙවැනි ආයතනවල සේවය කරන අයවලුන් සඳහා විශේෂ බලපත්‍රයක් නිකුත් කිරීමට නියමිතව තිබෙනවා. එසේ වෙතත් එම බලපත්‍රය නිකුත් කරන තුරු ඔවුන් එවැනි ස්ථානයක සේවය කරන බවට සනාථ කිරීමේ ලියවිල්ලක් ඇඳිරි නීති බලපත්‍රය හැටියට භාවිතා කරන්නට පුළුවන්.
He also gave an update on the police plea for arrivals in the country to register with the police.
පසුගියදා අප විසින් දැනුම් දෙනු ලැබුවා මාර්තු 19 වෙනිදා දක්වා ශ්‍රී ලංකාවට පැමිණි සියලු දෙනාට ස්වයං නිරෝධායනය සඳහා ලියාපදිංචි වන ලෙස අපේ ඉල්ලීමට ප්‍රතිචාර දක්වමින් අද දින දහවල් 12 වන විට 2913 දෙනෙක් ස්වයං නිරෝධායන ක්‍රියාවලිය සඳහා ලියාපදිංචි වී තිබෙනවා. මින් ඉදිරියට එසේ ලියාපදිංචි නොවුණු අයට එරෙහිව ඉතා දැඩිව නිරෝධායන නීතීන් සහ ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ අපරාධ නීතිය යටතේ ක්‍රියා කරනවා. ඔවුන් අත්අඩංගුවට ගැනීම සඳහා විශේෂ කණ්ඩායම් මේ වන විටත් යොදවා තිබෙනවා.
කොරෝනා වෛරසය පැතිරීම වළක්වන්න සබන් යොදා දෑත් සෝදන්න.
With the cremation of the second victim to fall prey to COVID-19 in Sri Lanka yesterday, questions arose whether a victim's religious faith should be taken into the equation when deciding on the manner in which his or her final rites are carried out. In this case, the victim was of Islamic faith and the final rites of the deceased caused a stir as it is contrary to the faith. Now, I have with me President's Counsel Ali Sabri. As a lawyer and a member of the Muslim community, I've invited you here. Let's start off talking about this. This is a very sensitive topic, Mr. Sabri. Yes, you're bound by your faith, traditions, which are very important to us as individuals. At the same time, this is a pandemic globally. The WHO has certain guidelines. If you're burying a victim, yes, there are certain guidelines, or cremation.
Yeah.
But particularly of Sri Lanka's situation, personally, as a member of the Muslim community, let's start talking about this.
Personally, if you talk to me, I think that the country's law and the medical concerns should take precedence over anything else. But I'm sure WHO also shouldn't have just come from nowhere and made this regulation. They would have studied so many things and put this regulation which permits a burial too.
Okay.
Most of the countries, about 182 countries, are permitting that, including England, Turkey, England, Italy, India, Malaysia, Singapore, and all those things. So if we have for good, valid and medical reasons, or logistical reasons, had to deviate from the WHO guidelines and to have our own guidelines to only to have cremation, I think there was a duty owed to give that explanation and say that though these are the regulations, and even at the time of the death, the regulations permitted a burial. So if you want to deviate it against the wishes of the family and want to go for a cremation, you should have done it with consultation and proper explanation. So
what do you say here? What should have been done in the sense when you say? Are you saying that the message has not reached the grassroots of the community or leaders of the community, or this has not been discussed? But then again, the question arises: is it possible at a situation as this to discuss all this? Let's talk about that.
Yeah. In fact, what happened was originally about 2 weeks ago, they placed certain regulations. That was there was some inconsistency with the WHO regulations. WHO regulations permitted the burial. Sri Lankan original regulation did not permit the burial, only a cremation. Then the community got activated and made representation with facts and figures from other parts of the country and gave those to the task committee, and they have a medical body within that for them to amend the regulations. So regulations were amended accordingly and burial was placed. So at the time of the death, burial was permitted, even in terms of the Sri Lankan regulation as well as the WHO regulation. So if you want to deviate it from it, they could have been informed. But
so personally, you don't have a problem whether it's burial or cremation. Is that what you're saying?
Personally, if you talk to me, I understand this is the country's health and the country's security and the country's progress is very important at this kind of a pandemic. But for some people, it's very, very sensitive.
Especially when it is your faith and traditions that you have believed in.
For a long period of time. So it's particularly because they also know in today's age, through the internet search, you will find all these other countries are permitting. They will say that if the other countries are permitting, why not here? So in that kind of a situation, it would have been ideal that we educated them.
That's your concern here. If we talk to you as a lawyer, what is your opinion here? Because the country's legal situation, as you said, national security, and you're somebody who has always spoken about Sri Lanka, because this is a fight against a virus, a global pandemic that the entire nation is coming together. And as the WHO chief said, this is something that everyone has to fight together. But at the same time, sensitivities of the people. Sri Lanka has seen several communal, issues. But are we going to let people manipulate this situation into that? When you see social media, a lot of misinformation, disinformation surrounding this topic.
That's the most important thing. If we are to meaningfully fight this pandemic, we need to get everybody on board. People should all feel we are all part of this fight. If somebody feels that I've been left out, I've been singled out, a part of the community is singled out, it's going to be difficult. So in that kind of situation, it has to be inclusive decision. So there is no two-word that the final say is with the national authorities. They have to decide, even though guidelines are there, the WHO guidelines are there. I don't think anybody will question that. It's possibly how do we get the Muslim community on board also and explaining to them and engage in a discussion and tell them we have to, in this kind of situation, we have to deviate, we have to cooperate. I think majority of them, vast majority of them would have accepted that and move on with it. Now here is a situation, there is WHO guideline, there is Sri Lankan guidelines, which both permitted at the time of the death. Permitted burial, but burial had not taken place. Then on the next day morning, without any announcement whatsoever, that regulation changes and burial is taken away and only the cremation is allowed. So that the process lacked transparency, and as a result of which some interested elements on both sides of the divide had used this to create uneasy tensions between the community, which is counterproductive to the larger effort. Right now, the biggest effort is to beat the coronavirus. So in that sense, if somebody is trying to isolate a section of the population, it's going to be difficult.
But finally, this challenge to beat and eliminate coronavirus, COVID-19 from Sri Lanka, we see the security forces, health authorities and policymakers coming together to structure a way forward, a plan, while others implement these. But again, what is the responsibility not just of one community but of all communities to ensure that you don't propagate ideas as these?
Of course. I mean, we must all understand this entire mechanism and put forward to look after them. If you don't cooperate with it, you are the first victim. Your family member is the next victim. Your neighbor is the next victim. And your village is the next victim before you give it to anyone else. So you have to be educated on this and you have to cooperate with it. There is no other solution other than fighting it together. So that is what it is important, that this is not the time to be divisive. This is not the time to play the racist card. This is a time for all of us to stand up together as Sri Lankans and support an excellent effort by the government, by the security forces, medical forces. They are in the front line. So this is time to support them, not to distract from the main cause. Main cause is to fight the virus, fight the pandemic, not anything else.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sabri, for joining us. We had with us Attorney at Law, President's Counsel, Ali Sabri, joining us. Moving on to other stories. Identified as the greatest test since World War II by the United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres, COVID-19 has taken the world by shock, proving to be detrimental to thousands. Here in Sri Lanka, 146 cases of the deadly virus have emerged from across the country, with 123 of them being active cases. Government, on the other hand, continues to tackle challenges brought on by COVID-19 head-on, tightening measures to curb the spread of the virus.
A total of 146 cases of COVID-19 infection have been reported in Sri Lanka since the detection of the first case on the 11th of March. Yesterday marked the highest number of cases reported from the country, with 21 positive cases being added to the tally. 10 of these patients were reported from the quarantine centres established at the Zahira College in Puttlam. They were taken to the Mulleriava Base Hospital last night by military personnel who were clad in protective gear. With inclusion of the individuals diagnosed with COVID-19, 69 persons from 20 families in Kadumayankulam, Puttlam, have now been sent to the quarantine facility set up at the Zahira College in Puttlam. The move came after a resident of the area tested positive for COVID-19. Upon scrutinizing the travel history, the patient concerned was found to have attended a religious mass in Malaysia. The patient, who is a teacher by profession, has visited 3 churches in the town of Puttlam.
මේ නිරෝධයන් ලක්වෙමින් ඉන්න අය වලුන්ගෙන් සාමාන්‍යයෙන් යම්කිසි ආකාරයක ඔවුන්ගේ මේ ආසාදනයට ලක් වෙනවද කියලා වගේ හැඟීමක් ආවොත් පමණයි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් මේ ආකාරයෙන් පරීක්ෂණ පවත්වනු ලබන්නේ. නමුත් ඊයේ මෙසේ මේ සෛර විද්‍යාලයේ හිටිය අයවලුන්ට මෙවැනි පරීක්ෂණයක් කරන්න කියලා කරලාද ඉල්ලීමකට අනුව ඊයේ දිනේ පරීක්ෂණයක් කිරීමෙන් අනතුරුව කිසිම ඔවුන්ට බාහිර ඒ වගේ රෝගී ලක්ෂණ නොතිබුණත් පරීක්ෂණයට භාජනය කිරීමෙන් අනතුරුව 10 දෙනෙකු ආසාදනය වී ඇති බවට තහවුරු වුණා. පුද්ගලමේ සොයා ගන්නා ලද ඒ COVID-19 ආසාදනය වූ පුද්ගලයා මේ මාස මාර්තු මාස 17 වන දින OD 185 මැලේසියන් ගුවන් යානයෙන් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවට පැමිණලා තිබෙනවා. ඔවුත් එක්ක තව 36 දෙනෙක් මේ ගුවන් යානයේ පැමිණලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් අපි ඔවුන්ගෙන් ඉතාමත්ම කාරුණික ඉල්ලනවා මේ OD 185 කියන ගුවන් යානයේ ඔබ පැමිණලා තිබෙනවා නම් ඔබ ස්වයං හෝ නිවෙස් නිරෝධයන් ලක් වෙන්න මන්ද ඔබත් එක්ක පැමිණි එක් පුද්ගලයෙක් මේ ආකාරයට COVID-19 ආසාදනය වී ඇති පුද්ගලයෙක් බවට මේ වෙනකොට පත් වෙලා තිබෙන හින්දා.
Meanwhile, 6 new cases of COVID-19 are reported from the Kalutara district, 3 from Kandy and 2 from the Colombo district. According to health sources, 51 families in the areas of Pannila and Chinakotuwa in Beruwala were directed to the Kandakadu quarantine centre today after they had come into contact with the COVID-19 patients detected from the area. As of today, there are 123 active COVID-19 cases in Sri Lanka after 3 more patients were discharged from hospital today after making complete recoveries, bringing the total number of recoveries to 21. 2 patients have succumbed to the virus, while patients suspected to have contracted the virus have gone up by 60 cases to 231 overnight. Meanwhile, 3 fresh cases were detected this evening from Maradana, Jaffna and Kurunegala. Elsewhere, an individual at the Mattegoda housing scheme has died under suspicious circumstances. Our correspondent says the 67-year-old deceased is an arrival from the Maldives who landed on the 20th of February. Upon examining the scheme, Homagama Judicial Medical Officer ordered the body to be sealed and taken to the Colombo South Teaching Hospital, similar to that of the procedure followed with remains of people succumbing to COVID-19. Meanwhile, family members of the deceased and the area residents were asked to self-quarantine until medical reports of his death emerge. As Atalugama and Akurana enter their third day of complete isolation, steps were taken to provide food to its residents with strict adherence to health precautions. The areas were subjected to disinfection today. Meanwhile, 2 persons from the Akurana area who sought passage, claiming that they need to fly out of the country, were turned back home. In Putlam, with a COVID-19 patient being detected from the area of Kadumayankulam, the village still remains under lockdown with no chance of entry or exit. In the meantime, a man who arrived at a private dispensary in Debaravava with symptoms similar to that of COVID-19 was admitted to the Hambantota General Hospital today. According to police, the 20-year-old resident of Ratnelum Valayaya in Tissa Maharama is an employee at a tourist hotel in Tangol and had returned home on the 18th of March. Upon inspecting his home, the health department directed his mother, father and 5 people in adjoining houses to self-quarantine. Meanwhile, a family residing in Hambantota was asked to self-quarantine after coming into contact with a COVID-19 patient identified from Beruala. Members of the neighbouring house too were asked to self-quarantine, to which they objected. Elsewhere, on a positive note, 96 arrivals from overseas kept under quarantine were released today after they successfully completed the 14-day process. 10 among them were sheltered at the Diathalava facility, while 86 were from the Dammina quarantine centre.
Now, the World Health Organization has commended President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's efforts in leading the government to control the spread of COVID-19 in the country. Taking to Twitter, the chair of the global body on health, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, made note on a productive conversation he had with the president yesterday.
Head of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, thanked President Gotabaya Rajapaksa via Twitter for mobilizing the whole of government in fight against COVID-19. Furthermore, he said that he had a friendly conversation with the president via telephone, exchanging views on the health sector and the regional economy affected by the virus. Meanwhile, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has appealed the WHO chair to pursue international financial institutions such as the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank, as well as leaders of lending nations, to provide debt moratorium or debt reprofiling facilities for vulnerable developing countries like Sri Lanka, affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, whose economies depend on tourism, exports, remittances and foreign investment.
Let's take a short commercial break before we return with more news.
අවශ්‍යයි ඔබේ මුළු පවුලම 100% දක්වා විෂ බීජ වලින් ආරක්ෂා කර දෙයි.
Welcome back. Sri Lankan Airlines says that it will temporarily suspend all flights from the 8th of April to the 21st of April in view of the travel restrictions imposed by the destinations they operate to. In a media communique, the national carrier said that it is constantly reviewing the market conditions and the restrictions imposed by various authorities and will be ready to recommence its operations at short notice if such restrictions are lifted. It also noted that the airline is willing to operate special flights during this period to repatriate the Sri Lankans who are wanting to return to the country if required. Further, the airline's cargo services will continue to operate from its worldwide network special flights as and when required. The Department of Immigration and Immigration today announced that the validity period of all categories of visas of all foreigners currently in Sri Lanka will be extended until the 12th of May 2020. The Department of Immigration and Immigration previously did similar extension to the validity period of all types of visas for a period of 30 days with effect from the 14th of March to the 12th of April.
Having considered the spread of COVID-19 virus in the country, it has been decided to further extend the validity period of all visa types issued to all foreigners who are currently residing in Sri Lanka for another 30 days until the 12th of May. A statement by the Department of Immigration and Immigration says the procedure to pay the relevant visa fee and to get the visa endorsed in the passport will be informed later, and hence foreigners are informed to refrain from visiting the visa division of the Department of Immigration and Immigration. Foreigners who intend to leave the island during this period are informed that their journey will be facilitated by paying the relevant visa fee at the airport without any penalty. Meanwhile, the validity period of the acknowledgements issued for the applications already submitted to the Department of Immigration and Immigration to obtain visas will also be extended for another period of 30 days till 12th May 2020. Foreigners who intend to leave the country during the given period are instructed to send a request to obtain their passport along with a scanned copy of the acknowledgements and the flight ticket to the email addresses dcvisa@immigration.gov.lk, acvisa@immigration.gov.lk, acvisa.l@immigration.gov.lk, acvisa2@immigration.gov.lk, aceta@immigration.gov.lk. For inquiries, dial 0771 588 724. The Department of Immigration and Immigration added that necessary advice will be communicated via the same channel.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa met with former parliamentarians of the United National Party today at the Presidential Secretariat. During the meeting, members of the UNP had praised the government's efforts in the battle against COVID-19, but had also highlighted issues that have arisen from measures taken by the state. Former parliamentarians Ravi Karunanayaka and Vimal Veeravansa had this to say, and they spoke to media after the meeting.
නොයෙක් අදහස් අපි ඉදිරිපත් කරා මොකෝ අපිට පේනවා අපේ සැපයුම් ජාලයේ යම් ප්‍රශ්නයක් ඇති වෙලා තියෙනවා ඒ සැපයුම් ජාලයේ ප්‍රශ්න කොහොමද අපි निराකරණය කරන්නේ කොහොමද අහිංසක එදිනෙදා ජීවිතයක් ගත කරන අයට කොහොමද අපි මේ බඩු ගන්න පුළුවන් අවස්ථාව ඇති කරන්නේ බේත් ප්‍රශ්නය ජනතාව වෙනුවෙන් එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂ ස්ථාවරය අපි පෙන්වලා දුන්නා අපට අවශ්‍ය වන්නේ මේකේ නිර්දේශපාලනීකරණය තුළින් තියෙන ප්‍රශ්න නැති කරන්නේ කොහොමද කියන එකයි මේ අවස්ථාවේදී ආණ්ඩුවත් එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයත් අපි ජොයින්ට් ස්ටේට්මන්ට් එකක් ඉදිරිපත් කරා
දේශපාලන කෝණයෙන් බලන්නේ නැතුව රජය දැනට ගෙන යන පියවර පිළිබඳව නොවුන්ගේ ප්‍රසාදය පළ කළා. ඒ වගේම ගෙන තිබෙන පියවර නිවැරදි වුණත් ඇති වී තිබෙන ඇතැම් දුෂ්කරතා පිළිබඳව වුන් කරුණු මතු කළා. ඒ අය ඉල්ලීමක් කළා දිස්ත්‍රික්ක මට්ටමිනුත් සියලු දේශපාලන පක්ෂවල නියෝජිතයන් සහභාගී කරගෙන මේ කටයුතු කරනවා නම් වඩා යහපත් කියලා. ඒ පිළිබඳව දැනටමත් තීරණය කොට තිබෙන බව ජනාධිපතිතුමා පැහැදිලිව පෙන්වා දුන්නා.
What important contact numbers should you keep in mind? Let's find out when we return after this break. The Securities and Exchange Commission of Sri Lanka has decided to grant a moratorium to the clients of all licensed stockbrokers and registered margin providers from the payment of interest on credit extended to them, which are due during the period commencing 11th March of 2020. The move was made in consideration of the impact caused to investors as a result of the drop in valuations of listed securities on or about the 11th of March 2020. This decision has been made also taking into account the decisions taken by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka to set up a refinancing facility to implement decisions taken by the Cabinet to introduce a wide range of fiscal and financial concessions to those who have been adversely affected due to the unprecedented situation presently prevailing in the country. Therefore, all licensed stockbrokers are directed to pass on the benefit they will derive from the decisions announced by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka to their clients and are directed to refrain from charging and recovering interest on credit extended to their clients until the 30th of June in 2020. A statement by the SEC said that they will be a temporary measure and will monitor and review the impact of this directive from time to time and shall reserve its right to amend, vary or repeal this directive any time before or after the 30th of June if deemed appropriate. Now, AdaDerana is no stranger to the strife of the people, as we strive to help people, especially when help is a far cry. AdaDerana launched a program to donate essential goods to religious establishments in the country, including temples and churches, from where the goods are distributed among the people. With numerous people and various institutions making donations to the cause, Dialogue Relief Service joined hands with AdaDerana today to extend their support to the people who are feeling the squeeze during this countrywide lockdown. Accordingly, the first step commenced from the Lanka prison. You too can contribute in this humanitarian effort by getting in touch with us by contacting the hotlines 0770 701010 and 0772 466 488. And for problems regarding food and medicine deliveries or other essentials, your first call should be to your Grama Niladhari. The Prime Minister's office, meanwhile, made a hotline available to the general public in order to report any issues regarding food and medicine services provided. People can lodge their grievances on 011 345 6200 or 011 345 6201. You may also contact 011 345 6202 and 011 345 6203 as well as 011 345 6204. And that's all the news we have tonight. Thank you for watching. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.